Welcome to the Depth Dive. Today, we're venturing into some pretty dark territory. We're looking at files from some really remote places, true accounts from the wilderness that are, well, deeply unsettling.
Yeah, these aren't just scary stories we're retelling. We're trying to understand those moments, those specific points where everything just falls apart. The safety nets, physical and, psychological, they just fail completely.
That's the core mission today, isn't it? To really get into what happens when control is just snatched away. Instantly, brutally.
Exactly. And the material we've got covers quite a range. We start with terrifying accidents, move through these baffling cases of abandonment, and then we get to actual human malice, predation.
We want you to walk away not just maybe feeling a bit spooked, but actually informed about these patterns of tragedy that can pop up when people step off the marked trail.
So we've sort of grouped these narratives by the type of threat. We'll start with failures of the environment itself, things that lead to these silent, sudden, fatal accidents.
Okay, let's begin with one that's just about the physics of sudden tragedy. It's called the Heart Mountain Horror up in Alberta, Canada.
Right.
It involves two old climbing buddies. They're doing the Heart Mountain Horseshoe Trail, but it's more of a scramble, right? They decided to stick to the easier parts.
Yeah, and maybe we should clarify for listeners. A scramble in Canada isn't just a hike. It's serious terrain, class 3, maybe class 4. You need your hands, there's exposure.
Yeah.
A slip can be, catastrophic.
Right, so these guys were basically observers that day, enjoying the view, watching more skilled climbers tackle this really formidable rock face.
Which makes what they found next even more jarring.
They were heading back down, and one of them spots a climbing shoe in the creek, just lying there.
Odd.
He sort of joked about it, someone losing their gear. But then they looked just a bit downstream, and they saw them, two hikers in the shallow water. Bodies just described as broken and twisted up, still clipped into their ropes and harnesses.
And the horrible part was the recognition, wasn't it?
Exactly. They realized they'd seen that exact couple just hours before, scaling a section that looked, frankly, impossible. The fall must have happened while the narrators were having lunch.
Which brings up that really chilling question you see in these high-altitude accidents.
Yeah.
The silence. The narrator was haunted because they didn't hear a thing. No scream, no shout, nothing.
That part really gets me, the silence. I mean, if you're falling from that kind of height, wouldn't there be some sound instinct?
It's the key anomaly. Experts suggest a couple of things beyond just, hitting their heads immediately and being knocked unconscious.
Yeah.
One's just the sheer speed, or maybe hitting something early in the fall.
Okay.
But there's a more chilling psychological theory they talked about, this idea of acceptance or pride, a sort of brief moment of lucidity where they knew what was happening and just met it silently.
Yeah.
Projected panic. It's kind of testament to the mindset in high-risk activities made.
Wow. And the aftermath. They had to pull themselves together. There was a young family approaching on the trail. They had to warn them without causing total panic.
And no cell service up there, of course.
None. The relief when a ranger finally showed up quickly on an ATV must have been immense. But the narrators, they said they could absolutely never go back to Heart Mountain. That psychological scar just runs too deep.
Okay, so from environmental failure, let's shift gears. Let's look at ambiguity. Situations where the threat isn't clear. Maybe it's staged, maybe it just defies explanation.
Right. We're heading to Yellowstone now, camping high up, 10,500 feet. This story starts with the headless horse and the photograph.
And initially, the group thought the scariest thing up there was having to take outside poops, as they put it. Minor inconveniences.
Yeah. Then they found a horse skull up on the mountain. Completely dry, clean, no meat left on it at all. They treated it like a spooky joke for the campsite.
Standard stuff, finding bones in the wilderness. Set their sort of internal risk meter too low.
But then, down near their lake camp, they find another dead horse. This one is still rotting, and it's also missing its head.
But they dismissed any link between the two. Right, because the decomposition was so different. The skull was ancient, the body was fresh.
Exactly. Their pattern recognition was looking for a natural connection. They weren't thinking about something staged.
And that's when things shifted. They found something else nearby. Old school camera film, half buried under pebbles, like someone deliberately weighed it down.
Old film, like negative.
Yeah, and when they held it up to the light, the negatives clearly showed the rotting headless horse they'd just found.
Okay, that's creepy. Why leave the film?
That's the key question, isn't it? It suggests someone wanted it found. The film wasn't damaged, wasn't worn. It felt recent.
Right.
It means the person who took the pictures and maybe decapitated the horse could still be nearby.
So the realization wasn't just, oh, a weirdo. It was, oh, someone who documents extreme violence might be right here.
Precisely. The fear shifted. It wasn't a bear, it wasn't an accident. It was the chilling thought that they were sharing this incredibly remote space with a potentially very disturbed, very dangerous person.
And they just left.
They got out of there pretty fast, even though they were exhausted. Relocated immediately. The idea that some kind of, quote, monster might be within miles was just too much. It's a reminder that parks attract all sorts, not just hikers. They'd found a predator's calling card.
Okay, so Yellowstone showed us someone leaving deliberate, disturbing evidence. Our next story is almost the opposite. It's about the terrifying lack of evidence. The ghost camp in Boundary Waters. An entire campsite just vanished. Like, the people were raptured.
This one happened during a canoe trip. Boundary Waters, that huge wilderness area between Minnesota and Canada. A big storm hit, they took shelter.
And the next morning, exploring nearby, they found it. A completely abandoned campsite, maybe half a mile away.
The scene just screamed wrong. It defied logic.
How so?
Well, the camp was trashed, tents ripped, clothes soaked, gear scattered everywhere. But this is the crucial part, everything was still there. Packs, ropes, expensive equipment, even food.
Right. Experienced outdoors people don't just ditch hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars worth of gear unless the threat is immediate, like right there, inescapable.
And the evidence specifically argued against a bear attack, which would be the first thought. These campers were responsible. They'd hoisted their garbage bag way up, like 20, 25 feet high.
Good practice.
But the bag was ripped open. Now, if a bear got to it, why would it leave untouched food lying around on the ground below? Bears don't usually do that. Plus, they timed their trip specifically to avoid the main problem season for bears.
So, ripped bag high up, uneaten food below, it doesn't add up.
Not at all. And the most haunting part, the silence. Just like Heart Mountain, but different. The canoeing group checked emergency radio frequencies. Nothing. No distress calls.
If a bear attacked or there was an accident, you'd expect something, wouldn't you? A flare, a radio call.
Exactly. The total sudden abandonment of valuable gear by people who clearly knew what they were doing. It suggests they fled something unseen, something that made them prioritize instant escape over any kind of survival prep. They just ran. And nobody knows why. That lack of closure drove the canoe group to end their own trip early.
That fear of the unseen, the unidentifiable. It takes us right into our next theme. The edge of sanity, maybe psychological collapse. We start in Wales, UK, on a summit called Carn Ingley. An unseen presence causes absolute primal fear.
Carn Ingley has this local folklore attached to it, that the barrier between worlds is thin up there. Adds a layer, I suppose.
So the story involves a nurse. She's taking her dog, Arth, for a late hike. And this dog is typically fearless.
Right. Until suddenly he just wasn't. He starts barking intensely at something unseen on the other side of a thick hedge, pulling on the lead so hard he's literally choking himself.
That's extreme. She'd never seen him like that.
Never. A level of agitation totally out of character. And then it switched, just as abruptly.
Which Tao?
He stopped pulling, darted behind the owner, whining, hiding, absolute terror. It escalated incredibly fast to the point where Arth was lying down, physically unable to move, and actually urinating on himself from sheer fear.
Oh my God, just paralyzed by terror from something she couldn't even see.
A trained, normally stable animal reduced to this infantile state of panic. The dog's reaction was the only signal. The owner had this sudden, chilling realization. If Arth is this terrified, whatever it is, I should be terrified too.
Smart move. What did she do?
She turned and ran. Arth bolted, basically dragging her the whole way over a mile and a half nonstop back to the car.
Just pure flight instinct. Did she ever figure out what it might have been?
She tried to rationalize it later. Maybe a really aggressive badger, a territorial buzzard. Unlikely to cause that reaction, though.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to fit the level of terror.
No. She became convinced, based on other local sightings, including some quite recent ones, and reports of strange roars at night, that it must have been a big cat. A puma, maybe a lynx. Not native, but persistent reports exist. The dog's overwhelming fear was basically screaming lethal predator nearby, something hidden, watching, just beyond sight.
Okay, so if an animal's mind can be shattered by an unseen threat, what happens when that kind of psychological horror hits a highly trained human, an expert?
This takes us deep underground, literally, to the Lechuguilla Cave system in New Mexico, an incredibly complex and dangerous place.
Lechuguilla is huge, right? 8th longest cave in the U.S., super deep, access is highly restricted. Only the brightest and best researchers get permits.
Exactly. Because it's volatile. Getting lost is easy. Rescue is almost impossible. The rules are strict for a reason.
Which makes the decision by one experienced caver, an LSU researcher, on the third day of their expeditions shocking. He broke protocol, went solo caving.
Which is just. It's rule number 1, you don't break. Solo caving is extremely frowned upon. It violates the buddy system, the rule of 3. If anything happens, a fall, gear failure, even just psychological distress, you're alone. No backup.
And he comes back hours later.
How was he?
He returned looking, quote, extremely pale, clearly shaken. He insisted he'd found something very pertinent, something important down there, but he absolutely refused to describe it.
Wouldn't say what it was.
No, just kept saying, you guys got to see this to believe it. The narrator initially thought, okay, maybe he's just being selfish, wants the glory of the discovery for himself.
Yeah, competitive science.
But then the narrator realized, no, this wasn't ego. This guy was genuinely, profoundly frightened by whatever he'd encountered.
And that fear, it turned into something else.
It manifested into horrific violence later that night. The narrator woke up to a struggle. The pale researcher. He was found strangling another member of the team with his bare hands.
Oh, God, strangling him, causing irreparable brain damage. They tried to restrain him, but he fought with this. Unbelievable strength. Shattered the narrator's nose, split their mentor's lip. He was impossible to hold.
And then
He broke free and just ran. Back into the cave system, into the total blackness, with no supplies, no food, no water, no gear. He was never seen again, never recovered.
just vanished into the cave after attacking his colleague.
Yeah. And the chilling mystery is, what did he see down there? What could trigger such a complete and violent psychological break in an experienced professional?
Did the victim ever say?
The victim eventually woke from the coma, but even with advanced communication devices, nothing he communicated made any rational sense. His mind was too damaged. But the narrator is absolutely certain. Whatever caused that outburst, that violence, it was triggered by something that researcher witnessed alone in the dark. It's the ultimate fear, maybe a threat so profound it instantly destroys the mind.
That brings us to our final, and maybe most sobering, theme. Not the environment, not the unexplained, but the intentional human predator. The monster who walks among us. We have to talk about Gary Michael Hilton.
Hilton is, the ultimate wilderness monster in many ways. A former U.S. Army guy, special platoon member, later diagnosed with schizophrenia. He knew the outdoors intimately, loved it.
And he used that love, that knowledge against people. Areas like Pisgah National Forest, Blood Mountain, these were his hunting grounds.
Unlike the strange anomalies or sudden accidents, Hilton was a calculated threat, hidden in plain sight, using the peace of the wilderness as his camouflage.
His methods were brutally simple. He targeted people enjoying nature. In 2007, Irene and John Bryant found murdered. First clues were fractured skulls and then someone using their ATM cards.
Then Cheryl Dunlap, later that same year, likely lured into a trap, maybe a staged flat tire. Her body was found later, scavenged by buzzards. She'd been decapitated, hands removed.
Extreme mutilation.
To obscure identification. To make the process harder, slower. It speaks to a certain chilling practicality within the horror.
His most infamous victim, perhaps, was Meredith Emerson in 2008. She actually fought back, had martial arts training.
She did resist, incredibly bravely, but Hilton subdued her, held her captive for days.
How was he finally caught?
A former employer recognized him from sketches, tipped off the police. They traced a call he made to a pancake house, of all places.
And he confessed.
He did. And he led police to Meredith Emerson's body. She had also been decapitated. When they asked him why, he reportedly just said it was to obscure identification. Coldly logical.
Chilling. What happened to him?
He was convicted of first-degree murder, sentenced to death in Florida, although that sentence got put on hold due to a Supreme Court ruling back in 2016. So he's in this state of vicious uncertainty, as some reports put it.
His case really anchors this whole discussion, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Hilton is the stark reminder that sometimes the most terrifying thing out there in the remote wild isn't nature's power or something inexplicable or even a sudden mental break. Sometimes. It's just the calculated darkness of another human being.
So we've covered quite a spectrum today. Everything from those silent, fatal falls to baffling mysteries like the ghost camp, encounters with unseen terrors, the psychological horror found deep underground, and finally the raw violence of a human predator.
Yeah, and I think the common thread, the pattern that emerges across all these different types of events is that sudden, stark realization.
Right.
When you step outside the defined boundaries, the normal rules just evaporate.
Control is gone.
Completely. The unknown, whether it's environmental, animal, psychological, or human, can pose an instant lethal threat. And your ability to manage it becomes almost zero in those moments.
So for you, the listener, maybe the thought to leave you with is this. Considering these accounts, what feels like the most terrifying aspect of the wilderness? Is it the raw, indifferent power of nature itself? Is it the things we simply can't explain? Or is it the sheer, unpredictable darkness that other people can carry?
Something to think about.
If you found these true stories chilling, maybe captivating in a dark way, please remember to support our channel, Horror Docx. Go ahead and hit that like button, share this deep dive if you know others who appreciate suspense and mystery, and definitely subscribe so you don't miss our next investigation into the shadows.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.